Hello again, welcome back. Here's another video. I In my last video I was talking about potential aquascapes for goldfish, and it's something I've been interested in. There's It's like a goldfish out there, little round opaque ball. I'll have to keep an eye out, see if there's any more. So anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, aquascape. So there's a lot of different aquascapes out there. I look at them and I think, well, people talk about the flow goes this way and the flow that and the flow, and I think, God, stop being so pretentious. It's a glass box. The flow goes wherever, the real flow. I like to be pragmatic with fish tanks. I'm sorry, but I'm not buying into all this picture of flow. The goldfish don't care, do they? And for me, that's what it's all about. The goldfish and what they want. So something that I've been thinking about is aquascaping for goldfish. It probably sounds a bit silly, but I was looking at pictures of ponds, and the really interesting thing I found was, there's big rocks on the bottom of ponds, and then there's like silt, but it almost looks like silver sand in a lot of ponds, which I thought would look quite cool with some pebbles and stuff in. Obviously, the pebbles would have to be too big for the goldfish's mouth. I wouldn't risk anything like that, but I'm just thinking, I think I like the idea of maybe trying to come up with my own philosophy of aquascaping. I like fast growing ponds with goldfish because they absorb anything, ammonia, nitrite, to keep the water parameters in check. So I like to use them for that, plus they look nice. But I like more of a natural ecosystem. I remember back in the day when I was doing SPS reef tanks, and I was dosing all this stuff in the tanks. Excuse me. I was dosing all this stuff in the tank, and it takes you away from the actual. You forget you're keeping fish because you're so preoccupied with what us freshwater fish keepers would class as your general hardness, like your magnesium, your calcium. That's your KH. So your magnesium and your alkalinity buffer, stuff like that. Stuff that you'd class as your GH and your KH. You just obsess over that to get the corals growing. But you have to get it right over a long period of time. And you end up spending a lot of money over a long period of time trying to keep these things in check. And I remember going into my fish store and I was spending, God, a good £100 a month just on stuff to dose my tank. And it got to the point where I'd forgot I was keeping clownfish, in the sense I was feeding, but I didn't feel in tune with those clownfish, or I had wrasse and tangs, and I just didn't feel like I'm in tune with the goldfish and know what's going on in their lives. And I'd completely forgot about that. I was worrying about phosphates and nitrates and magnesium, and it just killed the enjoyment for me. And that is something that I felt strongly about, and that made me leave reef keeping. And I kind of slowly circled my way back. I always wanted to get back into goldfish, and here I am. So that's something that I've kept in mind, and I want everything to be based on this. My philosophy I'm drawing up now, I want everything to be based around a goldfish and what they require naturally, which has made me think of stuff like, do you add scuds to the tank? And I've got some really interesting ideas for how I'd like to aquascape a goldfish tank. And because I've got to look at these tanks, even though they're set up for breeding, obviously that one's terrible. That one's got that dirt on the back. Well, as I say, I'm going to have to wait now and clear these tanks out once the weather warms up. But I'd like to aquascape them. so they look like a pond. I want it to be pragmatic. I want it to be like the natural environment. I know they're not natural fish, fancy goldfish, but I mean like the carp. I'd like to make an environment where carp would live in the wild. And then this tank, I've got some thoughts on this tank. I was thinking about what I'd like to keep and try and breed is hill stream loaches, or Hong Kong plex, some people call them. I like the idea of trying to keep them and breed them as well, because people keep them with goldfish because they like cooler water. So there's that, and then maybe some white clouds. But I think with the white clouds, you know, if you had the tank that was empty, instead of dosing ammonia, you could pop some white clouds in there and it'd keep the tanks cycled to a certain degree. With the hillstream loaches, I was thinking they could be some sort of cleanup crew for the escape. Maybe snails. I'm not. It's something I'm drawing up in my mind, and I think it'd be something interesting that we, you know, any of my subscribers, people who watch the channel, it'd be, you know, it'd be something interesting to your opinions on it. So if you've got any opinions or input, let me know. Put it in the comments, because I'm developing this idea in my head at the moment. You know, with we've got a dwarf lily bulb in there. I think I've said it before. I'm seeing this picture of a pond, and it had like 2 rocks, and then in the foreground it had a big log, and then in the two on one of the rocks it had lily pads reaching up. Because the light's dim, the plants aren't bushy, they grow straight up, long and thin, and one looked like a lily, and on the other rock, the side, all the plants were growing from by the sides of the rocks, which I found really interesting. But on the other rock, it looked like Vallisneria, and it reached right up to the surface of the water, and it looked really cool. And it just had this thing that it looked like an aquarium, the photograph, but it wasn't. It was a pond, and I thought I'd like to try and replicate that. And then another pond picture had a bank, and it looked like an aquarium again. It looked like someone had stacked all rock up at the back and made an embankment, and I thought that's another cool scape that we could try. And then it had bits of driftwood dropped down into it, and I was thinking, we've got a nubis growing out, we could try some of that on the wood. Well, obviously we've got Eladia densa, we could plant that along the embankment. There's so many cool ideas, and I'd like to come up with a new unique scape. I want something that appeals to. I know these, as I was saying, these tanks are for breeding, but I have to look at them every day, and I'd like them to look nice, you know. So let me know what you're thinking, guys, and I'll catch you soon.